Welcome to the Clear Admit MBA Admissions podcast. I'm Graham Richmond, and this is your Wire Taps for Monday, March 9th, 2026. I'm joined by Alex Brown from Cornwall, England. Alex, how are things going this week?
Very good. Thank you, Graham.
So I was away last week and had a good old trip to Morocco, which is a country I'd never visited. It was really interesting. Had a good time there, and I'm feeling recharged and ready for what's going to be a pretty exciting spring. It was a lot of fun.
No, very good. Welcome back.
So we have a packed show, in part because I was away. A lot of stuff happened. So we've got some pretty big news out of Duke. We've got a range of admissions tips, the arrival of our Real Humans alumni series for 26, which features grads at BCG, Bain, Amazon, and Morgan Stanley. We'll get into that. And of course, 3 great candidates to discuss that you picked out. But first, what's the news on your end? I don't know if you've got a sense of this. I feel like you always make a little map and tell us, but when will folks hear if they've been admitted in round 2 to a top business school?
Yeah, I mean, next week, this upcoming week, we're going to, a few schools are releasing decisions. So Fuqua and Ross are the biggest schools, and they have a lot of cross applicants, I think. So they'll be quite excited. Kenan Flagler, Mendoza, Cox, and Imperial Business School are also releasing decisions. And then we're also moving into that round 3 time frame. So Terry, IESE, and Maryland Smith have round 3 deadlines.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. And I also saw, I think I saw Carnegie Mellon was giving out some round 2 decisions last week. So so we're starting to get into it. Is there a day or a couple of days later in the month when a lot of the sort of M7 schools are giving? Is it like the last week of March that some of those come through?
You probably know the date better than me, Graham. So
I don't know.
You let him know. But yeah, I mean, the following week and the week after, we'll see an explosion of round 2 decisions, no doubt. And I know that we're planning a live stream event like we did for round 1.
Yes.
And so forth. So yes, exciting times coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I can't remember the date for that, but I think it's March 25th, and I'll give more details on that next week because we're lining up some guests, and admissions directors are going to pop by that live stream, so that should be fun. Other stuff that's going on. We're a little less than 2 weeks away from our March 19th big event, which is called Design for the World, the Global Advantage of a U.S. MBA. This is really for, international students considering an MBA in the U.S., and we've got an amazing roster of schools. We're going to be joined by representatives, whether it's admissions, career services, et cetera, from Duke, Columbia, Stanford, Yale, Berkeley, Cornell, MIT, Kellogg, Chicago, NYU, UVA, Darden, UCLA, Michigan, and Dartmouth Tuck. So that's going to be a really great event. It's in a series of 3 panels, which are organized around, what do international candidates bring to an American MBA classroom? And then some stuff about how do you get your student visa and kind of make that move to life in the US. And then the final thing is about how do you stay and recruit and get jobs and visas and things in America after business school. So should be fun. It's going to be a whirlwind because we're doing like 3 short panels in a row with all these different guests. So we'll see how it all goes, but I'm excited.
No, I think this is going to be a fantastic event. We've already got a couple of hundred folks signed up for it, and I predict this is probably going to be our largest online event that we've ever hosted. I don't know what our top number is for prior events. Maybe is it 500 or 600 signed up?
I think we've actually had 1,000 before when we did a couple of different essay workshop events, but we'll see. Yeah, I think we'll get close. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think it's so topical, and I think it's an area where there's a lot of misinformation and uncertainty, and clearly this session is going to be designed to clarify a lot of concerns for international students.
Yeah.
So it should be very good.
Yeah, so you can sign up for that. Just go to clearadmit.com/events. And I will give a small plug on May 11th. We're going to do our big annual in-person MBA fair, which I've been mentioning for the last few weeks. We have a killer roster of schools. I think we now have 22 or 23 schools coming, including Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, MIT, Chicago, Kellogg, Berkeley, Yale. I mean, the list goes on, but it's all the top schools in the United States. It's being hosted at Georgia Tech Scheller down in Atlanta. You can sign up for that also. Just go to clearadmit.com/events. So yeah, lots to come, Alex. And we will have some virtual events in May as well. Our kind of initial application strategy series for people thinking about applying next cycle. So yeah, it should be fun. It's just a busy time of year every year this time for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
So other stuff, we published our top in-person MBA events for March because it's the beginning of the month. So you can go to the site if you're looking to see like what schools are coming to your city. People love in-person stuff these days. I think in an era of AI and streaming and online events, people do still like to press the flesh, as we say. So you can go and go to some of these events. We have a whole listing organized by school and by date and everything. So you can check that out on the site. And the other thing we did is we did an article about Duke Fuqua. They have hired a dean, basically Mary Frances Luce. She is the new dean there. But I will say she's been the interim dean since August of 24. So they sort of have officially anointed her as the non-interim but permanent dean. So she's starting, I think that'll start on April 1st. But we did a nice piece on her. She's actually a Fuqua alum and really accomplished. And, I've heard nothing but amazing things about her. So they've got her now inked to a deal. And that's great news for Fuqua.
No, very good. Yep.
Yeah. We also ran some admissions tips. We did a tip about making the most of your welcome weekends. A lot of the business schools do welcome events in April to, basically welcome round one and in some cases round two admits to campus and to sort of, sell them on the program. And we had a series, there's sort of like 5 tips in this article. And the tips are basically go. If you are invited to welcome weekend, you should go. Number 2 was you should go with questions in hand. Number 3 was you should really use your time to gauge fit, like see what you think of the other people you're talking with, faculty, everyone. Number 4 was have fun, but don't get sort of fooled. I mean, these are kind of red carpet type events. So, don't, just recognize that it's not going to be like this every day when you're in a business school with all the amazing buffets and food and things. And then the last thing was if you're double booked, like if you have 2 admits from round 1 or 2 and you're, trying to decide which one to go to. And this, I think, is your advice, Alex. You say, go to your top choice or the school that, at that point in time is your top choice.
Yeah.
And the reason is that, what's the reason? Is it because, I can't remember. I know you have a good reason for this.
Well, the reason basically is it's the beginning of sort of looking for housing, networking, et cetera. So if you do have a favorite over the schools you're selecting from, lots of folks would default counterintuitively to their second choice to see if they're making the right decision to go to their first choice, but they're missing out on a lot of opportunity to begin that networking and
yes,
and so forth. So I would really encourage folks to go to their first choice, and yeah, likelihood is then it biases them further to that choice, which effectively is probably a good thing. I will mention you said have fun. I think there was a Wharton welcome weekend where I had a bit too much fun.
I can't imagine that happening.
You want to rein it back a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, you're talking about this now, but I think you once told me that if you go to your second choice thinking, well, I need to kick the tires on this program because I already am pretty sure that the other one's my favorite, you might find out, or you might end up being kind of wooed into thinking that it's your first choice, right? Because these welcome events are so much fun and they really roll out the red carpet. So, but I will also say that just the other day I was texting with a classmate of mine from Wharton who I met. He was the first person I met at the welcome weekend, and we became friends and stayed friends throughout our entire, kind of time at Wharton. And so it does matter. You do meet people, they become part of your network. And so go to the school that you think you want to attend.
And obviously we're talking about welcome weekend events that happen on the same weekend. If you have the opportunity, go to several welcome weekends.
Of course.
If that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah, great point. The other thing we did is we ran an admissions tip about a totally different topic, but this is more for people who might be applying in the future. And this is about considering pre-MBA courses before applying. There are any number of reasons that you might need to do that, but we go through, who should be thinking about that, what are the courses that are out there, how many of these things you need to do, and a little bit more on that. So you can see that on the website as well. We also did some very deep dive articles about Wharton and Columbia's deferred enrollment offerings and some admissions tips straight from their admissions directors' mouths, because we had them on an event. And so we turned their comments from the event into some really nice content on the website. So you can read those if you're thinking about deferred enrollment for Wharton or Columbia. So those are some of the news and notes items. We do have the new kind of Real Humans alumni series. And this is something we do every year, where we try to connect with people who have graduated from top MBA programs and are working at companies that we know our listeners are often interested in. So we work with the schools to sort of identify these grads, and we do these Real Humans. And so there are 4 of them this week, Alex, that I want to just quickly kind of run through, because it's just so impressive to hear about these folks and what they've done. So we have Samira, who went to Rice and graduated back in 24, and she's a consultant at Bain and Company. She's from India originally. She's 31. She went to undergrad, I guess, in Hyderabad, in India, and she studied electrical and electronics engineering. And she also has a master's in biology or in biotech from Texas A&M. So pretty interesting background. Anyway, she obviously went to Rice for an MBA, and she had been doing kind of life sciences stuff before, and then ended up at Bain after business school. And we asked her, what is one thing you would absolutely do again as part of your job search? And she said, network extensively with relevant alumni over LinkedIn and via coffee chats. Even if the success rate of a great chat feels low, the sheer volume of conversations provided me with essential insights into different company cultures and the nature of the consulting industry. So I think what she's saying is she had enough conversations where when she went into that Bain interview process, she really felt like she knew the company and its culture.
Yeah, and the advice makes perfect sense. I mean, we have access now through LinkedIn to a huge network of folks. From your school, from the industry you're targeting, from the companies that you're targeting, and so on and so forth. So make the most of that.
Yeah. So moving right along, we also heard from Allie, who is a NYU Stern grad, class of 23. So she's been out for a few years now. She is a project leader at BCG, which, as you may know, that's a rung up from what MBAs are hired into typically. So she's already been there long enough to make that move. She's also 31, based out of Rochester, or was born in Rochester, New York. This is fascinating. She went to NYU Tisch School of the Arts and studied acting as an undergrad. But then somehow, after working at HBO and kind of digital marketing and content, she sort of spun that into getting an MBA at Stern, and then has been with BCG since she graduated. And we asked her, what's a piece of advice that you wished you had been given during your MBA? And here's what she said. I wish someone had told me how non-linear careers really are, and how that's a good thing. Coming from a non-traditional background, I sometimes felt pressure to tell a perfectly polished story about how every step connected. In reality, the most interesting careers are built from curiosity, experimentation, and a few unexpected turns. Your MBA is not about locking yourself into one identity. It's about expanding your options. Take classes outside your comfort zone. Meet people who think differently than you do, and try things that feel slightly scary. You're not supposed to have it all figured out, and that's okay. So I thought that was good advice.
Yeah, no, really good. Again, it runs a little bit counter to the advice that we provide in terms of making sure you've got a well-developed plan and goals going into the MBA. But I think there's a nice balance there, hitting the middle. You can still have a well-developed plan while still experimenting and still exploring, etc., etc. But I certainly wouldn't give up on the importance of a plan.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think maybe part of what she's saying too is she's not giving advice about applying to business school and what you would say in your essay. I think she's, thinking more big picture about just generally. So I think it works. But yeah, good point there. We also talked with Felipe, who's a Harvard grad who works at Amazon. He only graduated in 25, so he's just joined Amazon not so long ago. He's 32 from Brazil originally, but he did go to undergrad in the US where he studied electrical engineering. And he had worked at Amazon as a senior technical program manager and an electrical engineer prior to business school, and he'd also worked with Meta a bit too. So he's been with, what do they call them, the Magnificent Seven type companies for a while. And he's returned to Amazon. And we said, what piece of advice do you wish you'd been given during your MBA? And he said, and I love this, he says, learn how to use AI, not to replace your thought process, but to structure it. Learn how to push back, ask for more information, work with it to build strong arguments. Most importantly, build real solutions to your own problems. My mental model now is if I'm doing something manually twice, automate it with AI. There's no excuse for today's MBAs to leave school without being super nimble with LLMs.
Yeah.
So that was interesting advice.
No, really interesting, but also it's great advice to sort of future-proof your own sort of survival in what's going to be quite a interesting, time over the next several years in terms of employability, et cetera. So I would absolutely concur.
Yeah, totally. And then last but not least, we caught up with Elliot, who went to Carnegie Mellon Tepper, also graduated just in 25, and he is an investment banking and associate at Morgan Stanley. He's 28. He's from Philadelphia, PA originally, and he went to Colby College, which is a great liberal arts college. He studied global studies, and he obviously went to Tepper, focused on finance and accounting. He had been working in corporate learning and development prior to business school, and now obviously he's doing investment banking. And I love this. We asked, one of the questions we ask is, why did you choose to attend business school? And everyone always gives this like paragraph long kind of response. So his response was to pivot into investment banking. Period.
Yeah.
But then one thing we asked him, what's one thing you would change or do differently as part of your job search? And he said, I would do a bit better job at budgeting and planning how much the recruiting process will cost. All the trips to New York City and back, as well as accommodations and food, really add up. So here's someone who he's landed at a top bank out of Tepper. So that's a testament to Tepper's strength in finance. But Tepper's not in New York City. So he had to go up to New York, obviously, repeatedly to meet with banks, et cetera. And he's just saying, keep an eye on that because there's a budget associated with that. And I'm assuming he had to fly each time, right? Because it's kind of a long drive.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So just something that people maybe don't think about.
Yeah. And, I hate to say it, but that gives advantage to grads at Stern and Columbia and so on and so forth that are doing heavy recruiting and networking in New York City. But we know that Tepper's very good on the analytics side, and so it has some really strong programs for investment banking. But
yes,
the disadvantage is you don't have that direct access on your doorstep.
Yeah.
So weighing that's important.
Yeah. So good advice. Anyway, those real humans. So those are the first four that we've run.
Cost of sandwiches in Pittsburgh is cheaper though.
I'm sure it is.
I will say that.
Yeah, and they have some very good sandwiches in Pittsburgh, just for the record. But what I was going to say is that they, we will. Lauren on our team, who does the Real Human series, she mentioned that she's got dozens of these now stacked up because we've been getting them from all alumni at all the top schools, at all the top companies. So there'll be more of these to come, but it's a fun series, and it's always a nice sign of spring that we're kicking these off. So they'll run all through the spring.
Yeah.
So more to come. Obviously, if you want to reach out to Alex and I, you can just write to info@clearadmit.com and use the subject line Wire Taps. But otherwise, Alex, I guess we better talk about the candidates that you picked out this week.
Let's kick on.
All right. So this is Wire Taps candidate number 1. Our first candidate this week has 12 schools on the target list, and those schools are Chicago, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, INSEAD, LBS, MIT, Kellogg, Wharton, Stanford, and Yale. It's sort of like Ivy League plus LBS and INSEAD. I guess Kellogg's not an Ivy, but anyway, they have a lot of the top schools on their list in both the U.S. and Europe. They want to start school in 27, so they're going to be applying this summer and fall and stuff. They have been working in risk management for Citibank, but in Chennai, in India. and they're hoping to do finance or investment banking or maybe even private equity after business school. They have a 7.5 GPA out of 10, and that's out of India, which means it's a pretty good score. We don't see a lot of like 8s or 9s in these programs. They have 2.5 years of work experience. They're 25 years old, Indian male, and they mentioned they do have, they've already obtained the chartered accountant, status, and they, have been doing a lot of other, sort of what I would call certification type stuff. They have something called the ACCA, the CIA, which has nothing to do with the Central Intelligence Agency. It's a certified internal auditor. In any event, they've done CFA level 1. This person lives and breathes accounting and all that stuff, right? And they've been working at Citi, as I said. They're thinking that they want to make that sort of career pivot, though, into banking and maybe private equity out of accounting. And so they're targeting M7, LDS, and INSEAD. And they were curious what we thought of their profile, as well as what kind of a GMAT score they would need to be competitive. So, Alex, what do you make of this candidate?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that they have most control over right now is their GMAT score, right? So they're applying for next season, to make that clear, not this season. So, I would encourage them to do whatever they can to really maximize their score, and it needs to be over and above the median of the target programs that they're targeting, right? So they're going to have to get sort of that 685, 695 or above, I would imagine, right? The problem that they'll face is they're potentially going to be overrepresented in the applicant pool. Sort of accountants transitioning to finance, that's quite popular. Coming from India, we know that that's potentially overrepresented and so forth. So that means two things. They're going to need to apply in the first round, I would suggest. So that's common advice for folks that are potentially overrepresented. And I had another thought on that that's just completely escaped me. But they also need to sort of potentially show how they stand out a little bit, right? So we're not familiar with what they do outside of work. It sounds to me through what they've indicated to us on ApplyWire that they're doing really well at work, and they're getting a lot of credentials along the way to sort of certify that they're doing well and so forth. So we would presume they'll also get good references, recommendations to support that. But what is their passion outside of work? Why are they wanting to transition from doing what they're currently doing in sort of accounting, auditing, back office, whatever it might be, to the finance side? So learning a little bit more about that too would be very helpful. And then finally, I think they're being very ambitious with their target list of schools. As you said, they're all Ivy League, or they're M7, or they're top schools in Europe and so forth. They'll be able to make this transition by going to a top 16 program, for example, in the US. And I would encourage them to look a little bit beyond just the M7. And again, make sure when they come up with that sort of overall list of schools that they apply to, that a couple of schools in that top 16 they apply to in round 1. Don't be thinking, well, I'll go after my more safety type schools. I don't think they'll be safety, but whatever, in round 2. Mm-hmm. Make sure they're also in round 1.
Yeah, I could not agree more. So the one thing that really jumped out at me is that they want to work in banking, right, and finance, and they don't have NYU Stern on the list. They don't have Tepper, which we just heard about a candidate that went from Tepper.
Tepper would be a good target, I would think.
So I would throw those two into the mix. There are probably some that I would subtract from this. Obviously it would really behoove them to figure out where they want to be. I mean, because there's a big difference between going to INSEAD in a 10-month kind of program versus going to the States. So it'd be good for them to figure that stuff out. But I could not agree more with you that when I read this profile, I was like, wait, where's the other stuff? Because right now they sound like numbers, accounting, and there's nothing they didn't share like what else do they do. I mean, obviously
Right.
they're spending a lot of their spare time, as you said, working on certifications and things. But if they're going to make the cut, they need a really good GMAT score, and they need to find a way to be interesting.
Yeah.
And that could be that, I don't know, maybe they're a runner, maybe they're a cyclist, maybe they love to cook, or maybe there's things that they do, volunteer work, etc. But that's not here, and we don't know what that is. So I'm hoping that those elements are strong because they don't have a ton of work experience yet, even though it sounds like it's pretty good. They're a little bit younger, 25, 2.5 years of experience. So yeah, they're going to need to do well on this test and probably, as you say, cast a slightly wider net and maybe, not necessarily more schools. They could probably apply to fewer than the 12 that they have on their list. But they, might want to vary the difficulty level of these schools, right? Because right now it's like all reaches, you could argue, or, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Talk about running, Graham. What's your best 5K time at this point?
I think I once did a 5K in under 21 minutes,
Wow.
20 minutes and change or something. But that was, not so long ago, but it's for some reason lately I've been focusing on trying to run longer.
Yeah.
So haven't been, but yeah, that's been my best ever.
Very good.
You're going to hold me to this New Year's resolution of trying to run 20. So or a half marathon or whatever. So I got to keep working on this.
Very good.
All right. I guess I want to thank that person for sharing their profile, but let's move on and talk about Wiretaps candidate number 2. So our second candidate this week has 10 schools on the target list, and they are also going to be applying this coming fall to attend the following fall, so they've got time. They've got Cornell, Duke, Emory, Harvard, Michigan, Kellogg, Wharton, Toronto, UCLA, and UVA Darden on the list. And this person's been doing business planning in a leading multinational corporation in their home country. They don't say where their home country is, but they say it's South Asia, not India. They want to work in marketing after business school. They've taken the GRE and scored a 316. They have a 3.58 GPA in undergrad, 6 years of work experience. They're open to living and working in the US or Canada after business school. And as I said, they've been working at their country's leading company, and they're doing strategy and analysis type work there. They've helped to commercially launch and drive new technologies and business streams with positive revenue impact. They've done a lot of work on budgeting. They also, as a student, did some internships and things with the country's leading startup, and have exposure to like fundraising, things like that. And they mention have closely worked with CXOs who will be willing to write LORs, so letters of recommendation. They do a bunch of volunteering and leadership as well. They've trained high school students on leadership and community impact projects. They founded a platform that connects students with volunteering opportunities, which they raised.
They've done a lot, Graham.
Yeah, there's a ton here, right? So, yeah, they did give us a lot of, very active. I'll just summarize. But the one other thing I did want to share is this person mentions that her parents passed away by the time she was 10. So she grew up with severe financial and social difficulties and have worked since school, and so has had to bear the cost not only of her own stuff, but she has younger siblings, and so she's helped to kind of finance them. And this is sort of the first opportunity that she feels stable and has the funds to maybe go off and pursue an MBA. So yeah, what do you make? She did say she's going to retake that GMAT of 316. So what do you make of her candidacy?
Yeah, retaking the GRE, and I think that's what she needs to do. I think the quant side of the GRE was actually quite strong, so maybe there's still some English communication that she needs to develop a little further, etc., etc. But if she can come back with a GRE that's at median for the school she's targeting, or better, obviously, I think she's outstanding.
Yeah.
Crumbs, like you started listing out all the different things that she's done.
Yeah.
She sounds to me like she's really been impactful at work as well as being impactful outside of work, right? And that's kind of the two areas that AdCom will explore. So I think this candidate could be really super strong, coming back with the stronger GRE score. I do think, and we talked about this, a couple of points that we talked about before coming on air, she should try to target one or two of these programs in round one and not just wait for round two. Why not? Test the water, etc., etc. So, we've got several months for her to get her ducks in a row. Most pressing will be resolving this GRE score. And then just making sure she selects the right recommenders. Just because C-suite folks, unless they work closely with you during your most impactful projects, they might not be the best choice. So just making sure that she selects folks that really understand her work product. It's not about just getting the most famous folk to support her. But other than that, as you suggested before we came on air, she just seems really quite a wonderful human being.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're making a great point about the letters of recommendation. I think, yeah, sometimes there is that tendency to be like, oh, I've worked with these really senior people, so they should write my letters. But if she has people that are closer to her work, like you said, then they might be better choices. Yeah, I'm rooting for her to do a bit better on the GRE. And as you said, she had a 162 quant, so she has a good quant score. But yeah, it'd be nice to get her up into the 320s because that would really change the calculus here. Because otherwise she's very compelling, and I think any number of these schools would want to have her. So,
and again, I didn't reinforce it, but overcoming the hardships is crazy.
Yeah, she's really dealt with a lot from losing her parents to then having to take care of her siblings and everything. So there's a lot here. Also, I think it's kind of interesting that she's wants to do marketing. So it's not a kind of run of the mill thing. I mean, you see a lot of people wanting to do consulting or banking, et cetera. So she has a real interest in marketing, and that makes sense and fits with what she's done to date. So yeah, I want to wish her the best of luck. Thank her for sharing her profile. And yeah, good luck with that retake on the GRE, because that'll be important.
Yes, very good.
Yeah, let's move on and talk about Wiretaps candidate number 3. So our final candidate this week comes from a DecisionWire entry that you've picked, Alex. So this person, they applied to Duke, Emory, and Vanderbilt this past cycle here, and they were fortunate enough to get acceptances at all of them. They actually got into Duke with a $60,000 scholarship. Then they went on to get an offer from Emory with a $90,000 scholarship. And if that wasn't enough, Vanderbilt came in with a $150,000 scholarship, essentially a free ride, I believe. They want to work in consulting after business school. And if you're keeping score at home, they had a 745 on the GMAT Focus Edition, which is a ridiculously great score. That probably explains a little bit of the money being thrown their way. They mentioned in their notes that they are an international student choosing between a dream school, Duke, and a full ride. They are risk averse. They say risk averse given today's job market, especially for internationals. Plan A is consulting. Plan B, supply chain or operations. Willing to take a calculated risk if brand and network meaningfully improve outcomes. Long-term goal is entrepreneurship or continuing in industry. So what do you think about this, Alex?
I mean, we've had this conversation a couple of times, this notion of risk averse. So risk averse can mean two things. One is risk averse taking on debt, and two is risk averse going to a school that doesn't provide as much access to opportunity.
Yeah,
right?
Great point.
So those are the two ends of the spectrums, and we would argue that Fuqua, potentially there's more risk involved in Fuqua in as much as there's less money being provided, but we would argue that because it's in that top 16 bracket, it's potential access to MBB and other consulting opportunities is higher.
Yeah.
So if you're targeting consulting, investment banking, or top tech sort of placement, going to the best school that you have access to does provide you more opportunity.
Yeah, so I agree.
That's the challenge.
Yeah, it's interesting. Elliot on our team weighed in, and he's very familiar, as some of our listeners know, with the career placement stats, right? So he's kind of, that's his big thing, is he's constantly combing through these things, and he did say, look, Fuqua is a great MBA program with very strong consulting MBB job placement. So and he goes on to make the point that while you'd have to pay some tuition if you go to Fuqua, you'll easily make this back after a few years in consulting, right? So that's down. And the other thing I do want to just draw attention to is this person says that they're choosing between a dream school and a full ride, right? So their dream is to go to Fuqua. And I would say, like you point out, the risk is not that high at a place like Duke. I mean, it's got a global brand. As I just point out, they place people really well. So I don't think, I mean, this does feel like they should probably go there. I would say if they really wanted to kind of split the difference, Emory does very well with consulting too, and is giving them 90 grand, so quite a bit more money. But it's obviously it's hard to walk away from your dream, and if their dream is to be at Fuqua, I think they should probably just go there.
Yeah, yeah, I would completely agree.
Yeah. So
there's a regret issue too, right? If you go to Emory or Owen and that, will you regret giving up the opportunity to go to your dream school?
Yeah, exactly. So that's something to take into consideration as well. In any event, yeah, I want to wish them luck. As we always like to say, it's a nice problem to have to be. I mean, this person's been offered like well over $200,000 in total scholarship dollars across these three schools. And also, I know we always point this out, but it's fascinating to see, 60 from a school in the top 16, 90 from a school in the top 20, and 150 from a school in the top 30, right? So it's just fascinating to see how that always seems to shake out that way. But in any event, Alex, I think that's it for this week. We'll do it all again if you've got time next week, but thanks for picking these out as always.
Yes, very good. Stay safe, everyone, especially those of you in, I would say, the Middle East or wherever. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
We are in pretty shocking times right now, but stay safe, good luck, and we'll do it again next week.